Upper Mesopotamia is the name used for the uplands and great outwash plain of northwestern Iraq, northeastern Syria and southeastern Turkey. In the northern Middle East, this region is approximately correspondent with what was Assyria from the 25th century BC through to the mid-7th century AD. After the Arab Islamic conquest of the mid-7th century AD, the region has been known by the traditional Arabic name of al-Jazira, also transliterated Djazirah, Djezirah, which derives from the earlier Syriac variant Gazerṯo. The Euphrates and Tigris rivers transform Mesopotamia into almost an island, as they are joined together at the Shatt al-Arab in the Basra Governorate of Iraq, and the sources in eastern Turkey are in close proximity. The region extends south from the mountains of Anatolia, east from the hills on the left bank of the Euphrates River, west from the mountains on the right bank of the Tigris River, and includes the Sinjar Plain. It extends down the Tigris to Samarra and down the Euphrates to Shatt. The Khabur River runs for over 400 kilometers across the plain, from Turkey in the north, feeding into the Euphrates. The major settlements are Mosul, Deir ez-Zor, Araqah, al-Hasaka, Diyarbakir and Qarmishli. The western Syrian part is essentially contiguous with the Syrian al-Hasaka Governorate and is described as Syria's breadbasket. The eastern Iraqi part includes and extends slightly beyond the Iraqi Nineveh Governorate. In the north it includes the Turkish provinces of Sanliurfa, Mardan, and parts of Diyarbakir province. Geography. The name al-Jazira has been used since the 7th century CE by Islamic sources to refer to the northern section of Mesopotamia, which together with the Sawad made up al-Araq. The name means island, and at one time referred to the land between the two rivers, which in Aramaic is Bitnaran. Historically, the name referred to as little as the Sinjar Plain coming down from the Sinjar Mountains, and as much as the entire plateau east of the coastal ranges. In pre-Abbasid times, the western and eastern boundaries seem to have fluctuated, sometimes including what is now northern Syria to the west and Adiabene in the east. Al-Jazira is characterized as an outwash or alluvial plain, quite distinct from the Syrian desert and low-lying central Mesopotamia. However, the area includes eroded hills and incised streams. The region has several parts to it. In the northwest is one of the largest salt flats in the world, Sabqa al-Jabal. Further south, extending from Mosul to near Basra, is a sandy desert not unlike the empty quarter. In the late 20th and early 21st centuries, the region has been plagued by drought. History. Prehistory. Al-Jazira is extremely important archaeologically. This is the area where the earliest signs of agriculture and domestication of animals have been found, and thus the starting point leading to civilization and the modern world. Al-Jazira includes the mountain Karakodag in southern Turkey, where the closest relative to modern wheat still grows, while at some of the sites along the shores of the upper Euphrates we can see a continuous occupation from a hunter-gathering lifestyle to an economy based mainly on growing wheat, barley and legumes from around 9000 BC. Domestication of goats and sheep followed within a few generations, but didn't become widespread for more than a millennium. Weaving and pottery followed about 2000 years later. From Al-Jazira, the idea of farming along with the domesticated seeds spread first to the rest of the Levant and then to North Africa, Europe and eastwards through Mesopotamia all the way to present-day Pakistan. Earlier archaeologists worked on the assumption that agriculture was a prerequisite to a sedentary lifestyle, but excavations in Israel and Lebanon surprised science by showing that a sedentary lifestyle actually came before agriculture. Further surprises followed in the 1990s with the spectacular finds of the megalithic structures at Göbekli Tepe in southeastern Turkey. The earliest of these apparently ritual buildings are from before 9000 BC, over 5,000 years older than Stonehenge, and thus the absolute oldest known megalithic structures anywhere. As far as we know today, no well-established farming societies existed at the time. Farming seemed to be still experimental and only a smallish supplement to continued hunting and gathering. So either were sedentary hunter-gatherers rich enough and many enough to organize and execute such large communal building projects, or well-established agricultural societies existed much further back than hitherto known. After all, Göbekli Tepe lies just 32 kilometers from Karakodag. The questions raised by Göbekli Tepe have led to intense and creative discussions among archaeologists of the Middle East. Excavations at Göbekli Tepe continues. Only about 5% has been revealed so far. Early history. Upper Mesopotamia is the heartland of ancient Assyria, founded circa the 25th century BC. For the late 24th century BC it was part of the Akkadian Empire. When the empire broke up, the northern Akkadians reformed Assyria, and from 2050 BC until 605 BC it was an integral part of the Assyrian nation, and the Old Assyrian Empire, Middle Assyrian Empire and Neo-Assyrian Empire. The Uric period existed from the Proto-Historic Chalcolithic to Early Bronze Age period in Mesopotamia, including a section of the upper region. The region fell to the Assyrian southern brethren, the Babylonians, in 605 BC, and from 539 BC it became part of the Persian Achaemenid Empire, where it was known as Athura. From 323 BC it was ruled by the Greek Seleucid Empire, the Greeks corrupting the name to Syria, a 9th century BC Indo-European version of Ashur-iyu, which they also applied to Aramea. It then fell to the Parthians and Romans and was renamed Assyria by both. The area was still known as Ashuristan under the Persian Sassanid Empire until the Arab Islamic conquest of the mid-7th century AD, when it was renamed al-Jazira. Since pre-Arab and pre-Islamic times, al-Jazira has been an economically prosperous region with various agricultural products, as well as a prolific manufacturing system. The region's position at the border of the Sasanian and Byzantine territories also made it an important commercial center, an advantage that the region continued to enjoy even after the Muslim conquest of Persia and Byzantine possessions in the Levant. Al-Jazira included the Roman, Byzantine provinces of Osrhoene and Mesopotamia, as well as the Parthian, Persian provinces of Ashuristan, Arbayustan, Nisibis, and Mosul. Islamic empires. The conquest of the region took place under the early caliphate that left the general administration of the region intact, with the exception of levying the Jiyut tax on the population. At the time of Muawiyah, the administration of al-Jazira was included in the administration of Syria. During the early Islamic Empire, the administration of Jazirah was often shared with that of Armenia and Azerbaijan. The prosperity of the region and its high agricultural and manufacturing output made it an object of contest between the leaders of the early conquering Arab armies. Various conquerors tried, in vain, to bind various cities of the former Sasanian provinces, as well as the newly conquered Byzantine provinces of Mesopotamia, into a coherent unit under their own rule. The control of the region, however, was essential to any power centered in Baghdad. Consequently, the establishment of the Abbasid Caliphate brought al-Jazira under the direct rule of the government in Baghdad. At this time, al-Jazira was one of the highest tax-yielding provinces of the Abbasid Empire. During the early history of Islam, al-Jazira became a center for the Kharijite movement and had to be constantly subdued by various caliphs. In the 920s, a local dynasty called the Hamdanids established an autonomous state with two branches in al-Jazira and northern Syria. The demise of the Hamdanid power put the region back under the nominal rule of the caliphs of Baghdad, while actual control was in the hands of the Ba'ad brothers who had conquered Baghdad itself. At the turn of the 11th century, the area came under the rule of a number of local dynasties, the Numerids, the Mirdasids, and the Uqaylids, who persisted until the Seljuk conquest. With the arrival of the First Crusade, the western part came into Crusader hands as the county of Edessa, while the rest was ruled by a succession of semi-independent Turkish rulers until taken over by the Zengids, and eventually the Ayyubids. Thereafter the northern and eastern portion were ruled by the Artuakids, while the western parts came under the Mamluks of Egypt until the Ottoman conquest of Egypt in 1516–17. Modern history. The region is the traditional homeland of the indigenous Aramaeans, Aramaic-speaking Christian descendants of the ancient Mesopotamians. Thousands of Syriac refugees entered into Syria and al-Jazira from Turkey following the Armenian genocide of World War I. Additionally, in 1933 a further 24,000 Aramaeans Christians fled into the area, following the Simele massacre in the Mosul region of northern Iraq. However, violence against Christians changed the demographics of this area. Kurds had cooperated with Ottoman authorities in the massacres against Armenian and Assyrian Christians in Upper Mesopotamia and were in return granted the land as a reward. Syriac Christians began to emigrate from Syria after the Amuda massacre of August 9, 1937. This massacre, carried out by the Kurd Saeed Agha, emptied the city of its Syriac population. In 1941, the Syriac community of al-Malikiya were subjected to a vicious assault. Even though the assault failed, Syriacs were terrorized and left in large numbers, and the immigration of Kurds from Turkey to the area have converted al-Malikiya, al-Darbasiya and Amuda to completely Kurdish cities. The historically important Christian city of Nusaybin had a similar fate after its Christian population left when it was annexed to Turkey. The Christian population of the city crossed the border into Syria and settled in Karmashli, which was separated by the railway from Nusaybin. Nusaybin became Kurdish and Karmashli became a Syriac Christian city. Things soon changed, however, with the immigration of Kurds beginning in 1926 following the failure of the rebellion of Saeed Ali Naqshbandi against the Turkish authorities. Current situation. Djezirah is one of the 4 dioceses of the Syrian Orthodox Church. The others are in Aleppo, Homs Hama and Damascus. The area has experienced a high rate of emigration in the past 40 years. Prime factors have been drought and the emigration of Assyrian Christians due to economic hardship and conflict with Kurds. Bibliography. Moore, Andrew M. T. Hillman, Gordon C. Legg, Anthony J. Village on the Euphrates, From Foraging to Farming at Abu Huraira, Oxford, Oxford University Press. ISBN 0-19510806-X. Peter M. M. G. Ackmans, Glenn M. Schwartz. The Archaeology of Syria, From Complex Hunter-Gatherers to Early Urban Societies. Cambridge University Press, pp. 72, ISBN 978-0-521-79666-8. Retrieved 27 June 2011. Istakri, Ibrahim, Al-Masalik wa al-Mamalik, Dar al-Kalam, Cairo, 1961. Brower, Ralph W. Boundaries and Frontiers in Medieval Muslim Geography, Philadelphia, 1995. Ibn Khaldun, Al-Masalik wal-Mamalik, E. J. Brill, Leiden, 1967. Lestrange, G. The Lands of the Eastern Caliphate, Cambridge, Cambridge University Press, 1930. Muhammadi Malayari, Muhammad. Tariq Farhang Iran Dar Asren Teghal Tus Tehran 1996. Maroney, Michael G.